Alright, so this video initially started out as a MagSafe comparison test, just to see how different MagSafe chargers were. It eventually evolved into something different, into finally what it is. So, during the process of testing, I figured out some stuff and I just need to share with you guys. So, this video is going to be all about how battery charging works, what the terminology is, and what you should be looking for when you buy a charger. And of course, alongside it, I'm going to be comparing 3 MagSafe chargers that I bought and compared. So number one, let me just explain how chargers work. So with a charger, you have the adapter and you have cables. Now, most of the times adapters will determine how fast you can charge, but sometimes you will need special cables or specific cables if the manufacturers have made their device in a way so where cables are, there needs to be a specific kind of cable for certain speeds to be reached. Now, this is all dependent on the manufacturer of the device. This is not going to be something that the charger themselves can decide. If you have, say, an iPhone, you can buy a 1,000-watt charger, but the phone is only going to charge at its max speed that the company has set. However, the thing is, speeds that are advertised. So recently, OnePlus came out with a 65-watt charger. I've seen Xiaomi with crazy speeds like 180-watt wireless, all this crazy stuff. All of that is something called a peak charging speed. The peak speed is the highest it can reach and not the actual long-term charging speed. So charging is not just like you plug it in and it's 85 watts all the way through. No. How it goes is it'll charge up, it'll start at like 1 or 2 watt, slowly build up to 85 watts or 40 watts or 15 watts, whatever your peak speed is, and then it'll slowly start to come down, go up a little bit more, just kind of, it's not a straight thing. Most of the times it'll touch the peak and come down to something that's about 60% of the actual peak speed, and that's usually your sustained speed. Sustained speeds are what need to be high for the phone to actually charge well, because sustained speeds are the ones that really lasts a long time. And I'll explain this, the data will show itself later in the video, but that's why these two terms are important: peak speeds and sustained speeds. So while brands love to tout their charging speeds, what they're touting is their peak speed. And peak speed, I can have 100 watts of peak speed on like anything, but if it only charges for like 30 seconds at 100 watts and then goes down to charging at 15 watts, it doesn't make sense. So, that's a lot of marketing going in there. It's not really a number you should put too much weight on, especially when you're making a purchase decision. The actual real number is the sustained charge speed of, your phone, how long it charges, and that's usually varying for every device. I did multiple tests, and every time I had different speeds, give or take within a watt or two. So it's not an exact science, it just really depends on a lot of different factors. But the higher these speeds are during the sustained time and the longer they're that way, the better and quicker charging you get. So that's the key where it is. So let me move on to what I'm doing now. So I'll be testing 3 different chargers, and the test will go like this. These are the parameters. I'm going to be using an iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has the 100% battery capacity. It's pretty much brand new. I will charge it from 0%. It'll completely be drained, so turned off, won't turn back on. And I'll charge it all the way back up to 100%. The phone has a SIM card in it. It's connected to Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth is turned on, but cellular is turned off. I will mimic it to be a real normal charging scenario. So once it does turn back on, I'll unlock the phone, but lock it again, and notifications, everything will come in as normal, as anybody's normal charging should be. So using 3 chargers, and each charger will be tested 3 times, and just to make sure that I don't have any anomalies, and I'll use the fastest charging speed of the 3. Every 3 minutes, I will be recording the percentage of charge and the wattage being used from the wall. All right, guys, so now that I have gone through all of the basics of charging and explained how my test is going to work, let me introduce the 3 chargers. So here I've got the Apple charger, here's the RAVPower charger, and here's the CHOETECH charger. So the Apple charger is a MagSafe puck with the adapter. The adapter is sold separately, not with a charger, so the charger costs $39, the adapter costs $19, $68 total. RAVPower, it does come with a power adapter, so there's a CHOETECH. So the RAVPower cost me about $25. It has a top claim speed of 15 watts. The CHOETECH cost me $32, and it has a top claim speed of 15 watts. Now, both of these do come with 20-watt adapters, but only the only the Apple charger claims up to 20 watts of charging output, and comes with a 20-watt adapter as well. So of the 3, They are all very different in some way or the other. The one thing I will say that glaringly stands out to me is that the RAVPower's cable is the thinnest and it really feels the cheapest. It just doesn't have the same quality and thickness that the Apple and the CHOETECH cable have. And it's very surprising to me that a company like RAVPower has a cable that's this thin. It really feels very dainty and it feels like it will not hold up to the test of time. I don't like the way this cable feels, and given that, you know, it's so weird. I just don't understand it. I will give this to RAVPower though. They have the smallest adapter. This is capable of 20 watts, just as the other two, but it comes in the smallest footprint. The CHOETECH cable is surprisingly high quality. This is metal as well. The backside is metal, and the front is plastic, of course. The adapter is completely plastic. The adapter does feel a little bit thin, you know, light and cheap, but it gets the job done. The RAVPower one looks the coolest. It's got a space gray finish on the back, black on the front, and it's got a decent heft to it, but it's just, you know, the cable really lets it down. And of course, Apple, you know, you've got the metal, you've got the nice plastic on the inside. It's a very premium feeling charger for sure. Out of the three, the Apple one feels the best. The RAVPower, I think, looks the best though. So let's move on and talk about the numbers. And I will put up some graphs for you on the screen, and I'll have all this information in my description as well. I'll have all the charts and all the data compiled in there as well. So if you want to go check that out while I'm talking, be sure to do that. You know, feel free to do that. So let me start with the Apple charger. It had a peak charging speed of 19.7 watts, but it only lasted for 6 minutes, which is a little bit disappointing. But, you know, peak charging speeds are just that. They're the peak, they're not the sustained. So the sustained charging speed on this was about 13 watts. It wasn't consistent. It jumped up and down here and there, but for the most part, it was around 13 watts, give or take. It took a total of 144 minutes to charge up my iPhone 12 Pro Max from 0% up to 100%. So 144 minutes, 19.7 of peak speeds, and 13 watt of sustained. Moving on, let's talk about the RAVPower. The RAVPower had a peak charging speed of 10.4 watts, which was the sustained charging speed as well. Now, the sustained charging speed here was very impressive, not because of the speed, but because of the duration. This speed, the 10.4 watts, charged on for over 110 minutes. So that's almost 2 hours of charging at 10.4 watts. No changes, no dips. Very, very impressive. Very consistent speed here. And it took 174 minutes to charge, so extra 30 minutes compared to the Apple charger. Finally, we have the CHOETECH. This one had the slowest peak charging speed of 9.8 watts, and it also had the, it only lasted for 6 minutes, similar to the Apple charger. And the sustained speeds were around 8 watts, 9 watts, in the middle there, never really crossing above that 9.8 mark at any point. And the CHOETECH charger took a total of 198 minutes to charge. So that is a pretty high number, especially when we compare it to the 144 of the iPhone, the Apple charger, I'm sorry. That's almost an entire hour more. Actually, it is in fact an entire hour and 4 minutes more comparatively, which is a long, long time. So this was the fastest. This took 30 minutes more, and this took an hour more than the iPhone, the Apple charger. I keep calling it the iPhone, I mean the Apple MagSafe charger. Let me talk about the graphs real quick. So right now I'm talking about the Apple MagSafe one. You guys can see that for all three of them, the blue is the charge percentage, and the red is the wattage pulled from the adapter to charge the phone. So the wattage pulled from the wall, to charge the phone. So every 3 minutes, these are taken in 3-minute intervals, and you guys can see the beginning, absolutely powerful charging from the Apple charger, but around the 15-17 minute mark, really starts to drop off and kind of dips down, but really comes back around the 25-minute mark, and then kind of has its lows and highs, kind of just bounces up and down, but it kind of stays around that range for the next hour or so, and around 85 minutes is when it starts to dip down and kind of actually consistently go down. As it gets above, I'd say 85-90% charge, the speeds go way down. So very inconsistent charging speeds, but it got there the fastest to 100. So that's something to think about. Moving on, let's look at the RAVPower graph, which will show you guys, just look at that red line. It is almost a straight line for the first hour. And then after that, there's a few dips, but again, for the most part, extremely consistent. And even it reflects right in the charging as well. That blue line is almost a straight line all the way up to like 80%, all the way up to 80% charge. And then after that, it kind of starts to change a little bit, but at no point does it plateau. At no point does it really become a problem. Really impressive from the RAVPower in terms of consistency. It's just the speed was definitely slower than the Apple one. And then finally, let's look at the CHOETECH one. This one was the one that had me thinking in a lot of ways. So number one, you guys can see it kind of got up to that peak real quick and then just kind of stayed there. Came down a little bit. For the most part, it was around just below that peak at around 8 watts, 8.8 watts. A few dips here and there, but the one thing you can see is that this blue line has a lot of tiny little curves and dips, unlike the other two. Those two were almost like straight lines compared to this. And the biggest thing you'll see is close to 98%. Towards the end, the line just absolutely plateaus. And this was about 15 minutes or 20 minutes of just staying at 98%. It was not going ahead above 98%. And you guys can see right where that plateau starts, the charging, the wattage takes a huge dip. So that red line takes a huge dip and the charging just plateaus. So it really slows down at the very end. And it's a little bit frustrating if you're trying to get that full charge done quickly. It will just kind of bug you because it'll take a nice 20 minutes or so more to get it up there. So that's it for the graphs. That's it for these chargers. What I'm going to do now is give you guys a conclusion on what I think of all three of these. All right, so now that you've seen all this data, let me tell you what I think. Apple's charger is the most expensive, yet somehow it's the best performer. You know, it has a much higher peak charging speed, and it had the highest sustained speeds as well. The RAVPower was definitely the best value, but it had surprisingly the cheapest quality cable of them all. And not just like cheap in the sense it's, you know, okay, it's cheaper, it's okay that it has it. It felt really bad. Like, I can't let it slide that bad. The CHOETECH had the slowest charging speed, but it did have a quality cable. And I started off this test thinking, you know, the $70 Apple charger, it's overkill. I'm sure that the $25 RAVPower or the $30 CHOETECH is more than enough and you'll be fine with it. And I think for the most part, the RAVPower should be okay. CHOETECH, I think, is just too slow. The only problem I have was that the RAVPower has the compromise of poor cable quality, and then the CHOETECH had the compromise of very slow charging speeds. And it just came down to it where the Apple does show its value. So that Apple tax that they're charging, it does have its value because you're getting faster speeds, you're getting good quality cable and charger. It just... I definitely walked into this, you know, thinking that I'll walk away with the clearer picture of the RAVPower being the better option, even if it's slower by a little bit. Who cares? It's like half the price, actually a third of the price, and it should be okay. But no, reality is just a little bit different here. I just think of the three, the Apple one is the one to go for, unless you're okay with, you know, just having a second MagSafe around or something. Or RAVPower changes the cable quality on these. I really do hope that they do that. I just don't know why the quality of it is so thin. It just doesn't feel like it'll last a long time. As I said, I personally would just cough up that Apple tax, even though I didn't think it would be worth it at the beginning of the video. I do think that after comparing them and looking at the data myself, I think it's a clear answer for me. So as I said before, if you guys want to check out these chargers, I'll have them linked down below. They're Amazon links, so you can go check them out on Amazon. I also have all of the data, all of the graphs, all the things I use to give you guys this information linked down below. So go check that out. If you're a nerd and you love looking at numbers like me, go check that out. I'm sure you'll find some interesting data in there. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and follow me on social media. I'll have all the handles right here on the screen. And of course, down in the description as well. Go check me out over there. A lot of behind the scenes stuff and just some nice little shots of the phones I'm using and all that. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.